Okay. So, this, in contrast to what we just read, is from the Los Angeles Times itself. So this is a person that lives in the city, works in the city, as part of an institution that is associated specifically with the city itself. And his article comes from February the 24th, 1992. So the 50th year anniversary, or maybe right before. And his article is titled, "Stunning Acts of Bravery That Will Live On in Infamy."
All right.
That is definitely a take.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, just go on.
No, please.
I just don't understand if he must have a very different interpretation of the way things went down. If that's the headline.
Well, Skyler, I suppose time will tell. And time certainly will tell.
Yeah.
We have duly celebrated the 50th anniversary at Pearl Harbor. Semicolon. I don't want to let us overlook the 50th anniversary of another historic event during World War II. Did I butcher the word world again?
It just sounds more like kind of like World War II, which is okay. I never make fun of you for it, but okay.
I don't want to let us overlook the 50th anniversary of another historic event from World War II.
You haven't even had that much to drink. I'm sorry. I'll shut up. You could do it.
I don't want to let us overlook the 50th anniversary of another historic event from around that time. It was on the night of February the 25th, 1942, that Los Angeles experienced the Great Los Angeles Air Raid. And it's important for us to say that this is sort of the alternate title, right?
The original title, or what it was originally referred to, right?
I think that is how it was referred to, and then Battle of Los Angeles is... Well, I might be wrong about that. Battle of Los Angeles might be the most common way that it's known, but I think often when it's discussed in, I guess, the hallowed institutions of, I don't know, what you know, media, politics, whoever, if you can imagine being in an office that somebody would refer to as hallowed, it's in that office, all right?
They refer to it
They call it the Great Los Angeles Air Raid.
Right, okay. But, and you mentioned this yesterday, that in the UFO community, it is
always called the Battle of Los Angeles.
Always called the Battle of Los Angeles. I like that distinction.
Yeah, I'm really curious to know if it was done on purpose or not. And here's another thing that I still haven't figured out is when did the UFO stuff start, or this idea that maybe there was something special about that incident?
You mean with the Battle of LA?
Yeah. I just wonder, did it happen immediately where people were like, because the UFO flap of 1947 hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody had the sort of
preconceptions. They didn't, because all of the witnesses described these things as aircraft.
Yeah,
a
you're
squadron
right.
of
They
planes.
all thought they were Japanese planes or like a blimp or something. So, okay.
So it must have come along later.
So I wonder when that happened. I think the report saying that it was a weather balloon or multiple weather balloons is from 1983, if I remember right.
I'm going to bet that it happened after the war.
Oh, for sure.
But what I mean is immediately-ish after the war. And I bet you there were.
Was that quick? You think it was before Roswell? Or before Kenneth Arnold, I mean?
I don't know about before Kenneth Arnold, but I would say it's probably like 50-50 whether or not it was before, because we have evidence that the spacemen and UFO like flying saucer kind of like mythology was already kind of, the groundwork of it was already laid. With I don't know the Cape Girardeau story if it made national news very much, but
boy, that's hard. I don't know that it did. But by the way, he's referring to an incident that happened in Cape Girardeau that we are in the process of editing at the moment. So we'll get more into that. But
oh, sorry.
No, you're cool. It's not like a surprise or anything. It doesn't matter. It's just, you are referencing a conversation that we've had in the past, but they aren't. And anybody listening to this will not be aware of that conversation. So
right.
I just want to, if you're confused about what he's talking about, it's fine. It'll be clear very soon. But there had been incidents like that, because we also have an episode coming on the mystery airships, which were a kind of UFO. They were UFO stories that had come before as well. But when did the Battle of LA specifically become, like, did it happen when the government said it was weather balloons? Is that when people went, oh, okay. Or was it after the 1947? I bet it was after 1947. Probably before 1983 would be my guess, based on what I know. I imagine it was probably, if I had to be more specific, I would assume that it happened in the late 70s, around the time Roswell revisionism started. And that may have been when it happened.
Oh, I see what you're getting at.
I would really like to pinpoint it, though. But maybe we'll get an answer to this question. Maybe we won't. But if anybody out there has any information on this, I would be very interested to see it or hear about it. So by all means, share, please.
Wait, I need to ask you a question.
Yeah, dude. Why are you telling me to wait? Don't tell me to wait. Just ask your fucking question. We're talking here.
So who wrote this article?
Jack Smith. Definitely his real name.
Okay. Is he still alive?
I mean, I assume it was in 1992.
Maybe we should talk to him.
Jack Smith is actually pretty well known in like local LA lore, I guess. He had a column for decades, and I believe he was involved in the military as well to some capacity. Our research staff really let us down on this one. They said that they didn't realize that we'd be talking about the authors, but I will see that they are punished accordingly. Thank you. Well, let's decide how you feel about that after we're done reading.
Well, I know how I'm going to feel about it either way. I can tell you that right now. But I think it would be interesting to try to track him down, because I'm putting on the hat.
Please.
His name's Jack Smith. Mm-hmm. And he wrote this article, and I've only heard just the beginning of it. But it sounds like one of those things that, like, if you actually went to try to find this guy and, like, see if he actually had a career,
it'd be nothing but balloons.
It'd be nothing but balloons. Anyways, go on.
Thank you for putting the tinfoil hat on while you said that, by the way. I really appreciate your dedication to it. Okay, let's see. It was on the night of February 25th, 1942, that Los Angeles experienced the Great Los Angeles Air Raid. It was the night when everyone's fears apparently were realized. Japan had brought the war to mainland America, and Los Angeles was their target. In parentheses, I have previously reported on this splendid action, and the following is a What the fuck is this grammar? And the following is a revision of that account, period, in parentheses. The Great Air Raid began at 2:25 a.m. Okay, so this is one of the guys that says it's 2:25. The Great Air Raid. Also, that just has a more like... This is some Los Angeles is the land of illusion shit right here. The Great Air Raid. and every... the first letter of every word is capitalized, of course.
Awesome. That's so boomery. I love it. Wow.
Began at 2:25 a.m. on that clear moonlit night when the U.S. Army announced the approach of hostile aircraft, and the city's air raid warning system went into action for the first time during the war. Suddenly, the night was torn by sirens. Searchlights swept the sky. Gun crews at army posts along the coastline began pumping ack ack. That's the second time they've used that. Is that just the thing that it's called?
I don't know. Is that an onomatopoeia? Or is it actually, is there something
Why wouldn't you just call it bullets?
Maybe it's called an ack. Maybe it's an ack.
It must be, right? It's called an ack. A-C-K. I have not researched this. I guess I'll Google it later. A-C-K-A-C-K.
Ack.
Ack. Yeah, okay. Gun crews at army posts along the coastline began pumping ack into the moonlight. Open parentheses. During the entire episode, 1,433 rounds would be fired. Period. Close parentheses. Thousands of volunteer air raid wardens tumbled from their beds and grabbed their boots and helmets. Those who had helmets, and rushed into the night. Tens of thousands of citizens, awakened by the screech of sirens and the popping of shells, jumped out of bed and, heedless of blackout regulations, began snapping on lights. It was pandemonium. Capital T capital T times. The Times did not fail the moment. At daylight, it was on the street with a dramatic account of that gaudy night. Quote, roaring out of a brilliant moonlit western sky, foreign aircraft flying both large formations and singly flew over Southern California early today and drew heavy barrages of anti-aircraft fire, the first ever to sound over United States continental soil against an enemy invader. End quote. But the second paragraph was a puzzling anticlimax. Quote, no bombs were reported to have been dropped. End quote. One would think that the rewrite man who wrote that story would have wondered at the lack of bombs. Why were those enemy aircraft flying over singly and in formation, if not to drop bombs? But no doubt that writer was caught up in the drama of the hour like everyone else and was merely striving for the words to do it justice.
I like this guy. I really do. If I start getting phone calls in the middle of the night from someone named Jack Smith because I said I liked his work, it's like I feel like, oh, what did I do?
Good evening, Mr. Smith. I am also Mr. Smith. You should go outside and look at the balloon we've left for you. You'll find it tied around your front doorknob.
Oh no.
And you go out there and it's a heart-shaped balloon with like a smiley face on it.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm gonna dream about that later anyway.
The story did go on to say that an airplane had been reported shot down near 158th Street and Vermont Avenue, though details were not available. Neither, as it turned out later, was the aeroplane.
He's not wrong.
Although no bombs were dropped, the city did not escape its baptism of fire. Without casualties, including 5 fatalities, which of course we've already discussed. Several persons were injured hurrying to their various posts. A radio announcer ran into an awning and suffered a gash over one eye. A police officer kicked in the window of a lighted Hollywood store and cut his right leg.
Why would he do that?
I'm going to read that sentence again because I feel like it deserves it.
Yeah.
A police officer kicked in the window of a lighted Hollywood store and cut his right leg. So he kicked in the window of a lit Hollywood store. So I don't know what lighted means I imagine he means lit, but that's also, I mean, there was a blackout, right? So what is going on in this weird police officer story? Did he go to the house to like...
Also, how did this dude get this information? Anyway, you're
No, you're right. You are 100% right. Did he talk to the police officer? 1992, it wasn't impossible. But yeah, did the cop go there because they were violating the blackout conditions? Or
maybe that seems reasonable. If you're
maybe.
If you're expecting any of this to be reasonable at all.
None of this is reasonable. Yeah, the entire situation is unreasonable. That's why it's notable. Because for as crazy as people can be, most people are reasonable most of the time. Or at least they used to be. Maybe not since COVID, but you know what? It's an extraordinary situation, so maybe we can be a little bit more patient with each other and with ourselves, and maybe everyone would be a little better off if that were the case. So maybe we can contribute to that by not doing what I just did and calling everybody crazy. That's contributing to the problem, huh? So I'm gonna take that back and say nothing.
All right.
The toll among air raid wardens was especially high. Open parentheses. They were said to have acted with valor throughout. Period. Close parentheses. One of them fell from a wall while looking into a lighted apartment and broke a leg. So, I just want to repeat this one again, too. We have now had one police officer kick in the window of a lighted Hollywood store and cut his right leg. And then we just had an air raid warden fall from a wall while looking into a lighted apartment and broke a leg. So we have two people of authority, a lit area, and them injuring a leg.
Okay.
See how this is so absurd? This doesn't...
Yeah.
I mean, it all makes sense, but it's like, why? This is mundane strangeness again.
Yeah.
You just have this random strange shit going on for no reason. Like, you don't need that. You don't need that. No. That detail didn't have to have like that. That wasn't predestined to have happened. That is just fucking weird.
I want to know what the air warden was looking at in that apartment.
Yeah, me too. Like, if you are in blackout conditions in Los Angeles so I guess here's a question. In blackout conditions in a city that large, I wonder how many people at any given time you could expect to be breaking that law. Is number one. And then number two is, how often did they enforce that? Maybe it was a thing where somebody had to get up to go use the bathroom, because it is like 2 a.m. too. Or
they're collecting their children, because there are bombs going off.
Sure, yeah, that's the other question. Like, did the lights start coming on when the shooting started, or
probably
what's going on there?
Probably, but
wouldn't you want to keep your light off if you...
I probably would.
I mean, we have cell phones now, but I would want to like grab a flashlight or something and then not turn on any lights. That's a situation where you want to make...
Did LA have control over the grid? to keep people from turning their lights on like they do now? I mean, surely, right?
I don't know, but even if they did, it's not reasonable to... Because do you have the ability on a power grid to distinguish between different types of power? Or
Yeah, I think so now, anyways. Maybe not then. I don't know.
I seriously doubt you could distinguish between like a light bulb or a refrigerator.
Oh, I see what you mean.
In 1942.
I see what you mean. But that doesn't... Okay, so we had the rolling blackouts here earlier. You didn't lose power, right?
No.
And I didn't either.
Well,
but that would include... That's like the power to your house. I mean, like, it's everything.
It's a blackout. They were blacked out because of an order. It was a blackout order. So they wouldn't be... Like, if an enemy aircraft flies over your city, they can't see your buildings.
Right.
So people still had power. It wasn't that they didn't have power. But then in 1942 in Los Angeles, you won't be able to... You don't have computers yet, so you can't regulate...
Right.
You know, all you're seeing is this house is eating this much energy. You can't see what is being transferred into what, I assume.
Right. I got you.
Don't know how electricity works, but...
That makes sense. But it does make me wonder, like, you know.
I am curious to what extent they can tell that stuff now. But... So I guess my question is... Why are these people turning their fucking lights on at 2:30 in the morning when shooting is going on? That's a situation where you would want as little light and as much sound as possible.
Yeah, you're right. But it is kind of an instinctual thing, right? Like if you hear somebody... Didn't this happen to you recently? When someone was knocking on your door and you flipped the lights on?
Well, yeah, but that was because I was like... I was also doing a thing with sound. I wasn't trying to be sneaky.
Right.
In a gunfight, the enemy knows you're there and you know that they're there. You don't want them to see you, but you do want to be as loud as possible to them to disorient them. And also shooting, it's much harder to tell where it's coming from.
Right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, not like if there was something.
Surely there were reasons. I'm sure.
Like I've had this kind of thing happen where like somebody like shot off a firework or there was some weird stuff happening around my house, and my reaction was not to turn on the lights in my house. It was to like creep towards the door or the window and assess the situation and then see what I needed to do after that. You know what I mean? Not hit the lights. Anyway.
I would just think that... I think it's really hard to... I think metaphors from our personal lives don't work here because the dynamic is not at all similar to anything we've ever experienced. Because it's not a military that you're like trying to assess or whatever. Because in World War II, they don't have any control whatsoever over where their bombs go or whatever. The only way that they can do it is that they physically see something, and then they fly directly over it and drop a bomb on it and hope that it blows up. So if you're working from the assumption that there are now enemy planes flying over you, you don't want light on because it's going to be the only thing that can definitely get you killed. So even if you're trying to grab your family or something, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I could imagine maybe somebody forgot to turn some lights off somewhere and these people are going to check it out. This air raid warden thing, that sounds like a position where it's somebody's job to go through and make sure that everybody's locked down. And we talked in our conversation about how you were like, fuck, wouldn't you want to go outside and see what's going... This is my Skyler impression.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. Wouldn't you want to go see what's going on outside, man? That's not at all how you sound.
I still stand by that. That's what I would want to do, but...
Yeah, but air raid warden makes me think that would not have been possible.
Yeah.
Because they thought of that. Because they know there will be...
there will be some idiot that's like, oh man, let's go check this shit out. This is wild. There, I did my own impression of me.
Yeah. Yours definitely needs some work.
All right,
I'll teach you how to do you. I just love that we just spent a lot of time on this lighting thing and the weirdness between the two stories, but there is a detail that almost passed by us that I think we should revisit real quick. You remember there were 5 deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they were all self-inflicted, but 2 of them were from heart attacks. I say self-inflicted, of course, in the broad sense. I think 2 or 3 were heart attacks, and then the others were car crashes, which is also very strange, again, because you're in blackout conditions. So how are people driving? This whole thing is confusing to me. I don't understand what is happening. Also, it's 2:30 a.m. I assume there's a curfew. So I guess if you're driving, it's probably illegal, which is probably why they had these law enforcement people out.
So wait, why is there a curfew? Because it's wartime?
I would assume they would have a curfew because it is wartime, and because oh god, dude, I don't fucking know. Shit, my brain is a complete mess right now. Because I think they had certain restrictions in place during the day because the previous night that place in Santa Barbara had been attacked.
Yeah.
But I think I read somewhere at some point that the restrictions were lifted at 10 p.m. And so maybe the conditions started up again, but because not everybody will be listening to the radio and not everybody will be able to hear an air raid siren, and the fact that there's no push notifications yet because their internet was down, is that they had to have physical people go around and tell you to, go inside, shut the fuck up, and don't turn on any lights. I bet that's how this all makes sense, I think. So, man, I feel like we are so stupid, Skyler. It's taken us years to piece all this together. How do you get people stopped in wartime? I guess part of it, though, too, is
Sorry.
Because you and I just lived... You and I, and only you and I, just lived through a lockdown somewhat recently.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason I am bewildered is because there seems to have been actual infrastructure in place to get people to stop.
Yeah.
And in war, and arguably other situations that I could imagine, that might be helpful to have, because otherwise people die. But I still haven't gotten to the point that I wanted to, that almost got biased. See, it almost got biased again. The sentence okay, so the air raid warden falls and he breaks it, or he falls and he broke his leg. The sentence before that, this still isn't the detail, but I just think it's funny again. The sentence before that was the one, the air raid wardens were said to have acted with valor throughout. It was that sentence, that they acted with valor, which is amazing. Yeah. But the sentence before that, the sentence the paragraph starts with is, the toll among air raid wardens was especially high. I would like to remind you that 5 people died, and I don't think a single one of them was an air raid warden. So, and to his credit, what he's talking about is, I'll go through a brief list of, it's going to be super brief, okay? Super brief means it'll take a light 20 minutes. Because it's us. Okay, so the original one. The one fell from a wall while looking into a lighted apartment and broke a leg. Another jumped a 3-foot fence to reach a lighted house and sprained an ankle. Another fell down his own front stairs and broke an arm. They acted with valor throughout. And the toll among them was very high. God. Especially high is what he said.
Oh, man.
So, I'm just going to read the whole paragraph again. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm here for it.
I just really enjoy this. This is an amazing set of words to me. The toll among air raid wardens was especially high. Open parentheses. They were said to have acted with valor throughout. Period. Close parentheses. One fell from a wall while looking into a lighted apartment and broke a leg. Another jumped a 3-foot fence to reach a lighted house and sprained his ankle. Another fell down his own front stairs and broke an arm.
Sorry. Oh my god, this dude's amazing.
I know. I knew you'd like this.
3-foot fence.
3-foot fence.
I mean, I could see it. I've definitely broken a bone doing some things like that, but
I understand. So these people are. What's happening is they're in a panic and they're making a fucking dash for it. They're like, "Oh my god, because that light means you're all dead."
yeah.
You know, not just the people in the house, but everyone in the neighborhood, possibly the whole city. Because if you know for sure where you saw one light and you're in Los Angeles, if you just drop all the bombs on that one light or around it, might get lucky. If your goal is to bomb Los Angeles.
Yeah.
All right. There was scattered structural damage caused by anti-aircraft shells that failed to explode in air, but did so when they struck the ground, demolishing a garage here, a patio there, and blowing out a tire on a parked automobile.
Yeah, we need to find this guy. This guy reminds me of oh, I'm just gonna invoke the X-Files real quick. Have you seen that? What is that? The episode where Mulder goes and hangs out with the author.
Oh, I don't know.
What is it called? Tommy. I'm gonna just have to look it up real quick.
Did you eat actual food today?
Yeah,
Good.
I had some.
Because all I've seen you eat today are hot sauce packets. And like the worst ones / best ones, depending on your point of view.
I like them the best.
But I can't believe you just eat them by themselves.
They're so good, dude. They really have a good flavor. And they're hot.
Not as hot as you.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay.
Where were we?
Where were we indeed?
The sounds are endearing.
It wasn't the sound I was worried it was gonna
Oh.
start to overflow. 'Cause we've had some incidents of our own.
Yeah. Mundane strangeness. Dang it. I'm gonna start thinking about everything as mundane strangeness from now on.
Me too. It's gonna drive us crazy. Until we just have the tinfoil hats on permanently.
We need to make a chin strap for it.
Yeah, we do. Pop filter's not working out. It was.
Someone or something
Is it appearing?
must have moved it.
Well, yeah, I moved it because it was in like an uncomfortable position.
Oh, thanks. That was a joke. You need like a little string. You can like brace it against the base of the mic.
Fuck it.
Do you want mine? I'll go with that one.
No, that's okay. Skyler, Can you define exultation for me?
I think that's like when everyone is sort of overjoyed. They're
Yes.
by the events that have occurred.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's
Specifically, it's the joy that comes with success.
the
or
joy that
victory.
comes with success. Okay.
So, with that out of the way, exultation was in the air. Okay, just rewinding real quick. The paragraph we've just read, the two last paragraphs were about injuries and structural damage. And then the next paragraph starts, exultation was in the air. The city had met its first taste of war with valor. There's that word again, valor.
He really likes that.
Oh, I love it. It was exhilarating. But exultation turned to embarrassment the next day when the Secretary of the Navy said there had been no air raid. There had been no enemy planes. It was just a case of jitters. Embarrassment turned to outrage. The army was accused of shooting up an empty sky. The sheriff was particularly embarrassed. He had valiantly helped the FBI round up several Japanese nurserymen and gardeners who were supposedly caught in the act of signaling the enemy aviators. The Secretary of War tried to save face by saying that while there were no enemy aircraft in the air, it was believed that 15 commercial planes flown by, quote, enemy agents, end quote, had crossed the city, though no one believed this gross canard.
Yeah.
Though no one believed this gross canard, most agreed with the secretary that, quote, it is better to be too alert than not alert enough. So you should go arrest those nurserymen and gardeners.
Yeah, that's a little insidious.
At the war's end, an army document explained what had happened. 1. Numerous. I repeat, numerous weather balloons had been released over the area that night. They carried lights for tracking purposes, and these, quote, lighted balloons, end quote, were mistaken for enemy aircraft. Semicolon. Open parentheses. 2. Close parentheses. Shell bursts, illuminated by searchlights, were mistaken by ground crews for enemy aircraft. The Japanese, after the war, declared that they had flown no planes over Los Angeles on that date. All the same, it was a glorious night, and I commend its memory to those who believe that Los Angeles has no history.
Wow, man. Wow.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Do you see why I had to read it like that, though?
Yeah. It's a work of art. Like, that was clearly made by an insane person. I'm sorry, Jack Smith, if you're out there.
He's one of your relatives, Skyler.
I hope so. I really do. I need to talk to him.
Maybe we can find him.
Let's try. We should really try. He worked. That's for the LA Times.
Yeah.
Were all of their things like that in 1992? Or was he just like, what if he had just been there forever? Like forever. And like, he wasn't really like, they had to like throw him a bone every once in a while and he was kind of like losing it, you know? Mm-hmm. And he's like, they're like, yeah, you can do that thing you've been talking about the Battle of LA. And they're like, they get it and they're like, oh shit, we said we were going to print this. Damn it. You know, one of those situations.
Maybe he was a relative of one of the people that died in the car crash, and so he needs to like frame it in these terms to make it like psychologically acceptable. I made it sad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case either. My read of it is that, I mean, so it's the 50th anniversary. Obviously, it's a kind of rah-rah, go LA kind of thing.
But no one thinks rah rah go LA from that story, dude.
Right, yeah.
Like, you could have picked any other freaking story about LA that would have been way cooler.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Guess it was a slow news day in that time in 1992 Los Angeles.
All right, I'm putting on the hat.
Please.
Okay. What if this guy knew the truth about what happened? And this was his way of like, he had to bring it to the public's attention because there were people after him, and he couldn't outright say it was a flying saucer and our government knew about it. And they caused all this carnage, and they know about it now, and you need to know about it too. And so he has to, you know, write this sensational story so that a bunch of people in LA are then going to be like, what? We never heard about this before. And they're going to look into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they're going to find the thread that leads them to the truth. Because he's about to go. He's about to pass away, and that he knew the truth. The people were after him, and he couldn't just come out and say. Obviously, they're not going to print it if he says it's UFOs. But maybe if he writes the sensational story, you know, about the.
Is it the balloon people that are after him?
I think in this case it would be the government.
Are they the balloon people?
Well, there's some of the balloon people. How many different species of balloons do you think are visiting Earth right now? Anyway, I'm taking that off.
Okay. Don't let it get too far. I like how at the war's end, an army document explained what had happened. Numerous weather balloons had been released over the area that night. I wonder if, wouldn't it be interesting if we could somehow find out? So here's a hypothetical that would make a lot of this make much more sense. The area had been, like, not that area, but an area of California had been bombed last night from their perspective. They just had a bunch of restrictions in place. Maybe those restrictions included no unauthorized air traffic. And so, but you need to get this data on the weather or whatever. Maybe even the military is requiring it, but also the military is restricting air space usage. And these are like two separate departments. I've run into this with like colleges before. My uncle at one point worked for one of the major universities here in town, and he had a pretty enormous debt of parking tickets, like parking violations that he had to do in the course of his job, but just hadn't like worked that out. And then at one point he got injured while on the job. So he had his lawyer make an offer to the university, which was basically, if you eliminate the debt, then we're square. I won't come after you for medical bills, and I'll sign an agreement right now. But the alternative is that if you don't agree to this, then I'll pursue you to pay for my injury, which is net more money than the parking lot debt or the parking. Yeah. So they didn't go for that deal, though, because the group of people who the department that the debt money would be going to was a different department than the department that would have to have paid out for his medical stuff. And so because of that, they made what would appear in broad terms to be an irrational choice. Mm-hmm. So the point of me mentioning that is I feel like when you get to organizations that are a certain there's a ratio of like size to efficiency or agility or adaptability that an organization can have. And the military is notorious for being, I mean, they are efficient, but there's that phrase like, you know, that old oxymoron, military intelligence. You know, like I'm sure your dad has told you that at some point. Yeah. Like everybody's dad has said that. Microsoft works, you know, that kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love my dad. Anyway, you know, but yeah, so the organization has reached a certain size, and so there's going to be a certain amount of inefficiency and red tape, and this is the whole reason why people hate bureaucracy. So I could easily imagine a scenario in which a group of people might have a task. It doesn't have to be from the military, but I could easily imagine it being from the military, that you need to get this data. We need it by this time. There's somebody breathing down your neck about it. But then other people with authority over like blackout conditions and public safety have sent these orders down and only lifted them at 10 p.m. So now you're really pissed off because you don't get to sleep tonight because you have to go out at 2 a.m. and launch a fucking weather balloon that you could have done at 2 p.m., but the Japanese blew up nothing and hurt nobody a day before. And so you're really mad about this and you're really tired and you've like made your coffee, but you're kind of nodding off at your desk. And then your boss is like, come on, we got to go send these weather balloons off. Or no, your boss isn't even there. He's actually at home sleeping, and you're mad about that too. Like, why doesn't he have to work? I have to work right now.
Yeah.
I don't get paid as much as him. This doesn't make sense. But then you got to go out there, and you're like, fuck it. I just need to do it. I need to go home. And so you start launching the weather balloons. And maybe that's how the Battle of LA happens.
I like that theory. Honestly, that's my favorite one thus far. Aside from the aliens.
I should have put on the hat for that theory, by the way.
I don't know. That seems pretty sound.
Seems pretty human to me. It could even be, like, I could easily imagine... I always project, like, passive aggressiveness and insecurity into these scenarios because I am, like, all of those things.
Yeah.
But I could imagine a situation in which... you know, like we talked about how we were shocked that they launched a weather balloon, and then in the original stuff we had heard about, we thought that they had launched 2, although apparently that number is in question. But going with that logic, we were like, why would they launch a second? You know?
Yeah.
I know that they traveled some distance, but there have been reports of people like being aware that the bombs were exploding and that the night sky was being shot at for like 30 or 50 miles or something. It was a distance. So he would have been aware that that was happening, I think. So maybe he launches it up there and they blow it to shit. And he's like, they're shooting down their own fucking balloon. This is unbelievable. Well, serves them right, I guess. I'll launch the other one. Fuck them. I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah.
I would love it if that's what it was.
I would do that. That's better. That's honestly better than the UFO.
Some just sassy bitch, like just upset that they don't get to.
I'm just imagining him there, like watching it, like you said, like the fuck.
Yeah,
they shot it down. Those motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, I guess I gotta send the other one up now. I'll just make up some numbers for the other set of data, I guess. Fuck, dude. But I gotta get some of this. I gotta get this information. Dude, I need this job.
Oh,
or
man.
or maybe he was like, oh fuck. If they figure out it was a weather balloon and then they come here and they see that there's still a weather balloon here, and so he's like, I gotta get rid of the evidence. He's like, I'll pretend like I sent them both out at once.
Oh man, if that's true, that guy went to his grave with that secret.
Unless he didn't.
Oh, you get the hat now? All right, this is the first time you've worn it tonight, so
That you know of. Or maybe he did take it to his grave. Or maybe after that he lied to everyone he came in contact with. But some people started sniffing around. Maybe some people who wore black suits. Or he took on a new name and started a new career in journalism and started writing puff pieces about how amazing the military was. And for years, they left him alone. And they knew that every time they read an article praising them, that he was sending a signal. It was loud and clear, and he understood from their silence that too was a signal of a mutual understanding about how this relationship was going to work. By the 50th anniversary, most of the people who had pursued him had died. And the story is really getting away from me, Skyler. I'm not sure how to connect it.
And he has a heavy, heavy heart. I don't have a hat. This is why we need two.
Take the hat.
He has a heavy heart about the people that died in the Battle of LA.
Oh, that's even better.
And he knows he's dying. He's terminally ill with cancer. And he wants to set the story straight. The air raid wardens who were gravely, mortally wounded in the Battle of LA, he feels so much grief about
they
this. They
valiantly received those scrapes and bruises.
That he has to make one final statement about it. You know,
how they heroically put on Band-Aids and went home.
And then
maybe their wife kissed their boo-boos.
Yeah, and then
because that's what they are, is soldiers with boo-boos.
And yeah, this is his parting statement.
Before he goes away forever. Maybe this was like parting statement. It says they're all gone now, all the people that were after him, maybe. And yeah, this is a statement of apology and trying to move past it. And then maybe he drove off into the desert, the top down on his, I don't know what those cars are called.
Black Lincoln?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Top down on his black Lincoln, puts on his aviators. And then as he goes off into the horizon, Born to Be Wild starts playing as the credits roll.
The venerable, honorable, valiant Jack Smith.
Jack Smith, who wrote with valor and heroism.
And launched those balloons.
Because of a petty beef he had.
Amazing.
I'd really like that to be the story.
I'm going to have to do some reading about this dude later. I really am.
Yeah. Well, if he's still around, it would be great to talk to him. His facts aren't incorrect. He just editorializes, but it's like that's the article he's writing that week. So that's his job that week is this is the 50th anniversary of whatever, and that's the kind of article you write on 50th anniversaries. His approach to talking about the event is really bizarre to me. I've never understood the whole thing about people feeling like there's value in arbitrary geographic locations.
It's awfully silly. Although,
Yeah.
I mean, the desert and the mountains, those are pretty cool.
Yeah, but he's talking specifically about Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to talk about interesting areas. There's nothing wrong with being proud of an area per se, but in the last part of it, he talks about, what's the last line? He said, "I commend its memory to those who think Los Angeles has no history." Which is just a very bizarre, like, he's not talking about it in terms of, hey guys, this is an interesting thing that happened. He's like talking about like, hey guys, we should remember this other thing that happened because this stupid shit we did is just as important as Pearl Harbor. Because that's the opening part of it, is we have duly celebrated the 50th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, semicolon, I don't want us to overlook the 50th anniversary of another historic event. So it's kind of weird, that phrasing. You kind of have to phrase it that way if you're writing the kind of article he's writing. We would all have done it that way if we were in his position. It's just I don't like how that's the status quo of that kind of approach.
We might have done it that way, particularly if we were Jack Smith.
Do you think Jack Smith is just like the combination of all of the staff at the LA Times?
Born in 1916.
You found him. Holy shit, what does he look like?
I will show you in a moment after I give you a couple of
I'm
important details. In 1916, he worked for the Los Angeles Times starting in 1952.
Oh.
For 37 years, worked there.
Oh, I see him. Wow, he really... I'm looking at his younger pictures. He looks like a real man of his time. Okay, please continue.
Timeline fits.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Really, really well.
It really does.
I wonder if he's military. Let's see.
Doesn't say so, but he may have been too old.
He was on the beach. Wait.
He would have been in his mid to late 20s, so not too old.
Smith was working for the Honolulu Advertiser during the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. He was
already a United States Merchant Marine at 21.
Yeah.
So in the 30s.
So curious.
We're always more right than we think we are.
What the fuck?
I fucking had him. Oh man! So Skyler just wearing it. Yeah, Skyler was wearing the tinfoil hat that entire time, and I forgot, and I think he did too. And when he said, "What the fuck," he like realized he had it on again, and so he grabbed it off the top of his head and just threw it at my table. Amazing. Yeah, we should have both been wearing our tinfoil hat for that. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
I know.
Man. Okay. All right. Time for me to put this in.
Oh, God.
Do you feel okay? Sometimes, because this has been happening a lot lately, this strangeness thing. Do you think that if we had never made a joke about all of that if we had just looked him up, it would... I'm wearing the tinfoil hat. I want you to all keep that in mind. Maybe if we had never come up with that theory in the first place, if we had just Googled his name, that article, and maybe a couple of other things would have come up, but it was just like, yeah, he was like born in the 1960s or whatever. He went to college at Stanford, and then like he worked the newspaper or whatever. Maybe he was given this article as like an assignment, and he has an interest in general LA history, and that's all we can find.
No,
but instead, we made this overly elaborate backstory, and then, I mean, it's like it's like right there. It's on the doorstep of being.
No, dude.
Okay, I'm taking the tinfoil hat off. I don't want to hear myself say it.
Okay.
This is nuts. How does this keep happening? So that makes sense, though, why he would have an emotional investment in...
But why would he downplay the Pearl Harbor? He was there, right? Isn't that what it says? Why would he downplay the Pearl Harbor attack?
He was in the Battle of Iwo Jima.
I think it said he was...
Yeah, he was. He was working for the Honolulu Advertiser. So he was in Hawaii when it happened.
Yeah.
So he probably wasn't... I mean, so I was being a little bit hyperbolic talking about how he's calling it the same or making it out to be the same importance. I don't think he was trying to do that. It's just that that's how you would open that kind of article. If you're trying to talk about a historical, I think that's like,
I think people say
technically correct,
and
right?
Historical, yeah.
If you're referring to an historical event near to another historical event, but the one that you want to talk about is not as well known, then you reference the other one. I mean, that's how your opening paragraph would work, no matter how you're trying to do it.
Is this the Battle of LA Part 2 then?
This is the audio appendix for the Battle of LA.
Okay. I'm going to have to get used to the terminology.
Well, it's all terminology I made up, so we don't have to you don't have to get used to anything.
I'm definitely going to have to get used to it.
So this didn't actually end up being a lot shorter. I was hoping it would be a little bit shorter. It's already 10:30. There's definitely going to be a lot of stuff I can edit out to shorten it down, but this is much longer than I anticipated. So holy shit. Maybe it is a part 2. I don't know.
I mean,
It's certainly long enough to be one. Might be longer than the original episode.